In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. There's a controversial theory that's been around since 1931. It suggests that about 13.8 billion years ago, the universe as we know it started with an immense explosion of energy and matter, known as the Big Bang. In the first moments, there were the four fundamental forces that were unified and existed as a single force. It only took 10 to the power of -12 seconds, 1 picosecond, for this whole explosion to occur, which led to the separation of these four fundamental forces of nature. First, within the first 10 to the -43 seconds was the Planck epoch, which is the earliest known period of the universe. During this epoch, gravity was the very first force to separate from the other forces. Next, by 10 to the -36 seconds, the strong nuclear force responsible for holding together subatomic particles within the nucleus, the strongest fundamental force known to man, had separated. Finally, by 10 to the -12 seconds during the electroweak epoch, the weak nuclear force responsible for radiation decay had separated from the final electromagnetic force, the force that operates between electrically charged particles. Now, the separation of these forces gave rise to our universe, and eventually, after 9.2 billion years, our Earth was formed. The aftermath of the Big Bang can be felt even to this day after 13.8 billion years. For example, if you turn on one of those old analog televisions and switch between channels, the static that you see are the photons from the Big Bang that have remained in space as cosmic microwave background radiation. The very phenomenon of the explosion gave birth to space-time, prior to which everything was thought to have been constrained into one single point. There was, in essence, no time before the Big Bang. Just think about this. No such thing as time? What does that even mean? One distinct phenomenon that was present immediately following the Big Bang, from the very first moments we could conceive of time, the Planck epoch, was the phenomenon of vibrations. Vibration is the fundamental quality through which our universe came about. And the very first phenomenon that occurred, the violent interaction between forces, which gave rise to these particles, was vibration. And there's a reason why Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nowadays, studies are showing that not only do our everyday objects vibrate and have a certain frequency, but so too do our thoughts and feelings. And over the last few years, this has been my obsession, to see how the vibrations of our thoughts and feelings influence the very reality that we experience. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how the reality that you are experiencing is not merely a chance occurrence, but has been very deliberately shaped by the vibrations of your thoughts and feelings, and how when you change your baseline vibration, you can immediately begin to experience a completely different reality. Now, this isn't just perception either. Once you correctly learn how to shift your state of vibration, it will quite literally lead to the shifting of lifelines into an alternate reality once done over a certain period of time. To fully understand this, we must first begin our exploration of vibrations by understanding the different levels of consciousness. So one of the very first things that we have to understand is a concept called the levels of consciousness. And this is one of the greatest books I've ever read. And this author consistently has written a lot of great books until his passing. His name is David R. Hawkins. I talk about him a lot on this channel because he's been very, very profound in my transformation growth and has taught me a lot of things. In particular, this book, Power versus Force, he talks about this concept called the map of consciousness, and it's on page 319, Appendix B. Essentially what he described was that the different states of feelings that we have a corresponding frequency. So I'll pull up this diagram right here, and you can look at how the different levels, as they arise, the different feelings, you can notice how these feelings are different from each other. So for example, the lowest feeling here is shame. Shame is very, very different from peace and joy. But then there's different gradations of feelings as it increases. What David R. Hawkins suggests is that all of these feelings are on a logarithmic scale. So he labels shame at a level of 20 on the log scale. So when you go from 20 to 30, it's not really a 10-point increase. It's actually 10 to the power of 10 increase. That's a really big number, because when you go from 10 to the power of 1 to 10 to the power of 2, that's actually a 100-fold increase. When you go from 10 to the power of 1 to 10 to the power of 3, that's a 1,000-fold increase. So you can see how much more of an increase in energy you would have if you simply went from shame to guilt, guilt to apathy, apathy to grief, grief to fear. These are very, very large jumps in energy. And this is very accurately depicted in our physiology. How much energy we have in each of these is different. Now, here's the crucial part. In society right now, there is a series of what I like to call pendulums. And if you look at the term pendulum or even an egregore, it's a very ancient term and it describes groupthink. When people come together in a particular group, they start to embody similar characteristics. They become in sync. So I want you to think about people who support the same sports team, people who are part of the same religious group. They all have a similar mindset and they think similarly. And these pendulums, what they do is they suck your energy to create a group energy. So pendulums are always trying to take your energy. The adherents to the pendulum surrender their energy to this greater pendulum, this greater cause. And so what happens is, most of the time, people fall unconscious to the frequency of the pendulum. 90% of the time, most pendulums out there are designed to keep us slaves to the system. So if you look at the schooling system, people are so drawn into this schooling system and how it's always been, and if anyone tries to break out of the schooling system and do something different, people are quick to label you as a weirdo and a creep, right? So if you try to not send your kids to school and you want to homeschool them, people are going to think your kid's weird and you're weird. That's just how the pendulum is. It's like crabs in a bucket. When a crab tries to break free, other crabs will try to pull them down. So that's how pendulums work. Pendulums desperately want you to not break free of their influence, because that means pendulums will get less energy. Now, does anyone form a pendulum consciously? I don't know. Most of the time, these pendulums are self-formed. They're self-organized. If you forfeit your energy to a pendulum and that pendulum doesn't support the goal that you want to achieve, then by definition, that pendulum is a destructive pendulum. Unfortunately, a lot of us are unconsciously subject to a lot of these pendulums, and we're unconsciously giving our energy to these pendulums. What's interesting, though, to note is that in the human domain, I'll depict it with this graph. If you look at the x-axis and we say this is frequency, we start from 0 on the logarithmic scale to 1,000, being enlightenment on this graph. At 0, you're basically at shame, guilt, the lowest levels of consciousness that one can be in. And at the highest levels, you're at enlightenment, beyond the linear realm to the non-linear realm. In the middle, it kind of takes the shape of a bell curve, I've noticed. Here, you'll notice that I've drawn 3 dotted lines. And why I've done that is because these pendulums try to keep you stuck at this bandwidth. Why? Because that's when they can mobilize you and take advantage of you. So if you look at all of these movements that are going on, and people who become so offended, people who really support a particular movement, they're willing to defend something with their lives and they do not know why. You know, they're willing to go to war about an idea that means nothing to them, certainly not worth giving their lives up over. People go to war all the time over stupid shit. Why? It's because they're part of this pendulum. What society does is, the social media all around you, big pharma, big media, big everything, they keep you in this particular energy and this particular vibration, which prevents you from breaking free and seeing the actual truth. If you look anywhere all around you, information is very, very well guarded, something I will not talk about on this channel. If you are watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Why they do this is so they can keep you stuck at a certain energy level. Typically, this energy level is anywhere from fear to pride. Those immediate 4 below the level of courage. Courage is the neutral level where you can break free from the influence of these pendulums. So this would be fear, this would be pride. The most resonant energy here, the tip of this amplitude of energy that can be seen, is anger. When these pendulums can get you angry, they can extract the most energy from you. Because in the human realm, at anger, we seem the most violent. There was a podcast that I watched a few months ago with Joe Rogan, Randall Carlson, and Graham Hancock. And Randall Carlson was talking about how they figured out a system through which the Egyptians levitated stone blocks because they knew the resonant frequency of these stone blocks to make them levitate and put them up in this configuration.
I always go back to the ancient Egyptian traditions that speak of priests chanting as these huge blocks were lifted into the air. Were they using some kind of sound effect, some kind of use of sound that was able to manipulate matter? We know that sound can manipulate matter, as a matter of fact, but they're lifting these blocks. Again and again, it appears in ancient Egyptian tradition.
Randall Carlson has put forward this theory that when you use resonant frequencies, you can make any object do anything. And all of the elements in the periodic table have a resonant frequency, a resonant vibration. This is why Nikola Tesla talked about this so much. Just like that, us human beings have resonant frequencies, resonant vibrations. In the human realm, the most resonant frequency through which someone can mobilize you is if they trigger you. Have you noticed what people do when they get triggered? They do irrational things that they justify afterwards. They take irrational actions, participate in irrational behaviors, and then after doing that, it's almost as though they've been zombified. They don't remember doing it, or they just can't explain why they did what they did, because they got triggered. So this is where we really fall unconscious. Anything below 200, we fall unconscious. Any emotion that we feel that leads to an action below that is actually life-threatening, not life-supporting. It's a win-lose, according to this book, Power versus Force. It's not a win-win situation, it's a win-lose. Even though you win by doing something out of anger, someone else will lose. It doesn't benefit society as a whole, which then ultimately karmically will come back to you to haunt you in some way. Pendulums will try to keep you angry, they'll try to keep you in fear. News, what's news all about? It's always fear-mongering. Everything is fear-mongering. There's something to be afraid of in this world. Or it keeps you stuck in pride. Someone threatened you and your family and what you believe in, what you stand up for. So what? Change your beliefs. Who cares? Why go to war over something as silly as your beliefs? A lot of people take pride in their beliefs and they're willing to risk their lives. I personally don't really see the point in that, but it takes a level of consciousness to be able to see why it's silly to give up your life over a thought and a belief. What I'm trying to say with this is the range that they will keep you stuck in. If you find yourself stuck between fear, desire, anger, and pride all the time, you're feeling these feelings, chances are you're subjected to a pendulum. The question is, how do we go from these states to changing our baseline vibration so we can experience what we want? So there's a few key things, in fact, 4 main things that we have to understand in order to be able to do that and experience the lives that we want to experience. This is another book that David R. Hawkins has. It's The Mechanism of Surrender. What do most people do once they learn about vibration and raising your vibration? They immediately get into a resistance mode. They say, what I am feeling right now is bad. Therefore, I must resist what I'm feeling and change it to feel different. I bet if you're watching this video right now and you have felt these feelings of fear, desire, anger, and pride, you're like, oh, this is bad. I have labeled this as bad and as an enemy. Therefore, I must change it. Anytime you focus on changing something, you've already lost the battle. You've already given in to the pendulum. You've already given the pendulum your energy. Instead, what you want to do is allow and accept what you're feeling and notice that this is merely a feeling and merely a thought. It has no power over you, and work on its surrender. So this leads me to the first and most important method to changing your baseline vibration state: letting go. What most people don't understand about letting go isn't something that you try to do. You don't say, I'm trying to let go. Either you've let go of something or you're holding on to it. You do not try to let go. When you try to let go, you're immediately at resistance. It's better to think about letting go as letting be. When I accept something fully, anything that's happening in my life that I do not like, for example, one morning you wake up with anxiety or you have a terrible thought. What's your immediate reaction? Oh no, I must change this thought. Oh no, I must take something, some SSRI or something to get rid of my anxiety. Immediately you've lost the battle. Because you've just told yourself that this is not okay, it is not okay for me to feel this way. You haven't given yourself permission to process what's coming up. There's a reason these feelings are coming up, and they have to be dealt with and handled properly. There's different ways in which we handle our feelings. The 4 main ways in which we handle our feelings are repression, which happens unconsciously. We repress something because it's too strong to be dealt with. Suppression, we push it down consciously, and typically we engage in escapist methods like watching TV and binge eating or smoking, doing unconscious behaviors to run away from the feeling itself. A level above that is expression. We try to express it. We express our anger, take it out on someone, scream at someone, yell at someone, or just always talk about our problems. And the highest level, the best way to deal with it, is surrender or letting go. When you simply surrender to that feeling, you wake up with anxiety in the morning and you say, you know what? This too is a feeling. This is okay. This is permitted to exist. If you simply do this for the next 30 to 40 days, your life will profoundly change. I can guarantee that. Because I know what it's like to wake up with anxiety and fight that anxiety every single day and run away from it. The more you try to run away from it, the more you're suppressing and repressing it. It will get pent up and come up in ways and in moments that are very, very inconvenient. Has that ever happened to you? You try to put it to the side and all of a sudden you act out in a way and you don't know why. You just get really, really stressed because you haven't properly handled and accepted what's happening. It can be even in trivial things, like, all day your kid is crying, you have a newborn, it's been a terrible day, and instead of accepting that it's been a terrible day, you try to fight it. You're like, no, it hasn't been a terrible day. This is not normal. This shouldn't happen. Instead, if you just change that, instead of fighting the feeling, you gave it a mental hug. And you said, you know what? Yes, this has been a terrible day. And that's okay. It's just another day. Tomorrow could be different or it could not. Doesn't matter. Because within me, I'm at peace, I'm at ease. All of those things that are happening, they're happening outside of me. This is the best way for you to raise your vibration because guess what? Look at where acceptance is. On this graph, look at the level of acceptance. Acceptance is at the level of 350. So when you get into acceptance, you can immediately pull yourself out of these lower states of consciousness and go up and up. What I also want you to understand with letting go, that it's not always about surrendering. Sometimes it's about expressing. The surrender happens in expression. The surrender sometimes even happens in suppression and repression. But this surrender can only happen when you've consciously made the decision to talk to a confidant. When you've consciously made the decision to suppress it in the moment because it's too strong to be dealt with right now. For example, if you've just had a loved one pass away, this is a very, very strong feeling for you to be dealing with right now. Maybe you consciously make the decision to surround yourself with friends and distract yourself. As long as that's a conscious decision on your part, the very light of consciousness will lead to surrender. I really want you to remember this because people think the answer is black or white. People think that, fear, pride, and all of this is bad. It's not bad. It's only bad when your emotions and feelings are using you. For example, a lot of good things have come out of people who've become very angry, right? They've created great things, but it's because they were able to transmute these lower levels of consciousness into higher, more enlightened feelings and more enlightened drives. People were able to transmute their lust into something productive. There's many instances in history where anger has led to something great, where fear has led to something great, where pride even has led to something great. But it's only when the experiencer made a conscious decision to turn around. Which leads me to my next point, which is learning how to balance effort and surrender. So people think when you get started on this journey of personal development, manifestation, reality creation, it's all about surrender. Don't worry about the how. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. Just focus on visualizing it, affirming it, and the how will show itself. To a certain level, that's true, but you also have to do what you know now in the moment. Consciously taking effort. Consciously making an effort and then learning to defocus. And this is the difference between process orientation and goal orientation. Please think about how you get joy in your life. You only get joy in your life when there is a process. You're doing something every single day. You're walking along a journey. When you get the goal, it becomes quite boring because then you start to look for the next goal to go after and the next thing and the next thing. As soon as you attain a goal, how long does that feeling last for? Maybe a few hours, maybe a few days, a few months. How long does it take for you to aim for the next thing? It's always the journey. It's always the process, right? So this is why learning to balance effort and surrender is so key. Because when you focus on something, you're creating it with your intention. But then when you surrender it, you're letting God create it into the universe. You're basically saying, this is what I want, this is what I intend, this is what I would like to experience. And once you surrender it, you're basically saying, hey, my viewpoint might be limited. Maybe God or the higher power, you know what is better for me. If you want to make that, then that's great. You're co-creating in your life. So it's about focus and defocusing. If you would like to use and transmute your vibrations to create what you want in your life, this is one of the most crucial principles to understand. In yoga, they call this principle Vairagya and Abhyasa. And this is a 5,000-year-old idea put forward by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. So this has been around for a very, very long time. And the key is to understand that you need to have a goal, but you need to immerse yourself in the process and surrender the goal to God. What you do, your inputs, are in your control. The more you focus on things you can't control, the more you will have things you can't control. The more you focus on things that you have in your life, the more you will have things that you're grateful for. So we get more of what we focus on. If we focus on lack and scarcity, then we will see more lack and scarcity. If we focus on abundance, then we will see more abundance. Which leads me to the next point, which is our focus and attention. The number one way to raise your vibration is through focusing on what you want instead of trying to resist what is. How many times have you focused on trying to change something? See what we talked about? When we feel these feelings, instead of trying to change it, focus on what you would like to feel in the next moment. Very good reality creators, all of the successful people that you see who are living the life that they want to live, they've created the lives that they want. It was a conscious choice. They focused more on what they wanted rather than what they didn't want. They focused on what they could control rather than what they couldn't control. They stopped worrying about the things that were going wrong and started feeling grateful about the things that were going right. One of my mottos for this year, and I realize I get into this myself, is I start worrying about petty stuff. And so one of my mottos this year, I posted this on my Instagram story, is stop worrying about stupid shit. Because I realized that that's what kept me stuck. When I was trying to hold on and trying to make little things perfect, like, oh, I hope this doesn't break in my business and that doesn't break in my business, let it break. Let it break. That's what's going to happen if you grow. It can't be perfect. If you want to grow, you want to hit revenue records, you have to let things break. Obviously, there's a balance to it. You can't let everything break and get into a lawsuit and just fucking let everything go to shit. But there's a subtle balance to it. And you have to understand what that balance is for yourself. And for me, I was on one side of the balance trying to keep everything too orderly, too perfect all the time, and I had to change that. And this is where my focus and attention came in. Focus and attention is like a ball of light. Whatever you bring it to, it will grow. You know, like plants need sunlight and water. To create the reality you want, you need to give that reality focus and attention every single day. And that's why I always recommend to my clients to have 1 or 2, maybe 3 max goals that you keep top of mind every single day. The more you focus on that goal every single day and you simply surrender it, you focus on it, you surrender it, you focus on it, then you defocus, the more it will come to life. And then one day, once you've completely forgotten about it, guess what happens? Oh my God, I put this on my vision board. It's come true. You find your vision board, you find that thing that you've written down, and all of a sudden it's come to life. That's how it happens, once you've forgotten about it. Finally, what focus and attention leads to is in understanding that whatever we put on a pedestal will always look down upon us. So I want you to think about, in your life, what goal do you worship? For some people, it's money. For others who've never been in a fulfilling relationship, never found love, it's relationships. For others who've never felt joy in their lives, it's joy. For some others, it's health. They've never been in good shape and they've always had ailments. And these are the things that they worship. For us, whatever we've lacked in our lives become our God. When you put those things in a pedestal, when you put it up and you give it so much meaning, what happens is you're creating an imbalance in nature. And by that very definition, you're creating a resistance. When I put something up here and I just get obsessed with it to the point where it's like I have a lot of feelings of anxiety and fear about it, that if it doesn't happen, my life will end, that if it doesn't happen, bad things will happen, it immediately brings down my level of vibration, immediately brings me down to anxiety and fear, right? And keeps us stuck in desire. We begin to think that having desire is what makes goals happen. That is completely untrue. What makes things happen in our lives is the choice that we make, when we make a choice to experience it. What desire and putting things on a pedestal does is it basically says, I'm here and my goal is here. And every single day when you keep moving forward, your goals also keep moving away from you. If you want to bring your goals to you, what needs to happen is you need to lower that importance. Has it ever happened to you when you needed to make that sale to hit your revenue target? That sale was so important. You would do anything to get that sale. And the more you tried to get that sale, the more you sabotaged it. The more unfortunate things started to show up. All of these obstacles all of a sudden show up. People's payments kept failing. All of these things happened because you put that goal on a pedestal. And as soon as you took that goal down from the pedestal, everything effortlessly flowed. All of a sudden, clients were coming in left and right, and they could all pay, and they just were all interested. Isn't that funny how that works? Anytime you put importance on something, excessive meaning, anytime you put excessive meaning towards something, you immediately create resistance towards that thing. So what needs to happen is, when you notice obstacles in your life, you're noticing there are so many obstacles. One question you have to ask is, where am I putting too much meaning? What am I attributing too much meaning to, too much importance to? Work on reducing that meaning first, and then do what's necessary. In that order. We reduce that meaning we put towards that sale, towards getting what we want, and what problem we want solved, and then we just simply show up and almost dispassionately do what's necessary. So one example I can give you of this is, for the longest time, I've tried to grow my YouTube channel because I knew that if I grow my YouTube channel, then I'll be able to make more impact, grow, get more revenue, and grow my business and support more clients and have more fulfillment. That's the thing that I want. Okay, I need to grow my YouTube channel. It was around 2021, 2022. For those 2 years, I was so hell-bent on growing my channel, and I tried to manipulate it, by doing, making videos that it didn't really resonate with me. I just forced myself to make videos, and I put this YouTube channel on a pedestal. And the more I put it on a pedestal, the more I tried to go viral, the less I went viral. And finally, when I just let go of it, and I said, you know what, fuck it, whatever happens, will happen. I'll just make videos that I want to make and that I'm interested in making, and I will focus on giving and sharing as much value as I can. Towards the end of 2022, we just blew up. And we went from 180,000 subscribers, and now maybe it's at around 600,000. And I'm so grateful for you guys who are interested in improving your life and enable me to do what I'm doing every single day. So, that's the power of you lowering your importance. Any time in your life you notice you're stuck somewhere, just ask, what am I attributing too much meaning to? So over the last 7 years that I've been in this personal development space, these 4 methods have allowed me to raise my vibration. You'll know you've raised your vibration, by the way, when life gets easier. Things just happen spontaneously. You just get luckier. All of these magnificent things happen in your life without you even asking for it. If you achieve your goals that you've intended, that's great. But if you achieve your goals and they're way beyond what you could have even imagined, then that's wonderful. Right? And that's what I want possible for you. What I've done is I've made a comprehensive protocol on visualization. I've found over the last 8 years that the one method that's worked the best for me is learning how to visualize correctly. And there's 6 main steps to visualizing. I made a comprehensive video for you to crush it this year with visualization. It also has a free guide in there. A free, I believe it's like a 10-page guide that's going to keep you accountable, that's going to help you do it every single day. As you know, our mission here is to help every single human being on earth to master their destinies, and the way I can do it is with these free videos to reach as many people as we can. So click right here to go watch that video, and I want you to share it with as many people as you can if you find it valuable, and I will see you in this next video right now. Thanks.